This tutorial will go over the basics of setting up a document in Adobe Illustrator. First, open Adobe Illustrator and then go to File, New. In the dialog box that comes up, give your document a name. I will call it Laser Cutter Test. Then set up the size of the document under width and height, but first you might want to change the units from points to inches. There we know that the bed of the laser cutter is 20 inches wide by 12 inches high, and make sure that it has a portrait or landscape, orientation. Next step is under Advanced, toggle the triangle so that you get these other options, and instead of CMYK, choose RGB. That color mode just works a little bit better with Retina Engrave, the print driver software. The other things you can leave as is. Select OK. This should bring up a document that is empty like this. The next thing to do is under File, go under Document Color Mode and just make sure it says RGB, which it should. And under Document Setup, you can select that and just make sure that you have all the correct settings in there as well. Under General, Type, everything looks good. Okay, next are some basic tools. Top two tools over on the left hand side are the Selection tool and Direct Selection tool. We'll start working with those once we have an object in here that we can work with. So first of all, let's just come down to something familiar, to the Rectangle tool. You'll notice that most of these tools have a little triangle in the bottom right corner. If you click and hold that tool, you'll see a number of other options. So if one of the options you're looking for is not on the main tool menu here, click and hold and you can start finding more options. So I'm going to take the Rectangle tool, click and drag a rectangle to get it the size that I want. This is a transform window that may or may not appear. I don't need this at the moment. Then when you have your Selection tool, if you have the top one, which is just standard selection, this allows you to click it, drag it around like so. You can also then resize it by grabbing one of the corners. You can resize it in a more constrained way by grabbing a midpoint of either end, like so. With the Direct Selection tool, that allows you to select just portions of an object. So you might want to select just the corner, and then you can transform and move just that corner, no longer making it a rectangle, of course, but coming from that original sort of parent shape of the rectangle. The other things that are general properties that you want to be able to do with any object is when you select it, control the color. This is very important in working with laser cutter. The two things are the fill and then the stroke. So the fill is what would go inside of the shape. So right now this one is by default white. Just to see the difference, if we change it to black, you can see that it fills it in, or red, etc. With any shape, when using the laser cutter, you need to have no fill. If you have a fill in it, it will give you errors when working with the driver software. So the first option, which is a white box with a red line through it, means that there is no fill. You have to just be careful to make sure that that is selected and not white, because often they will look the same. But that means it is indeed transparent. The next option is the stroke, which is here, and you have, this will be the outlining line. So the options typically are black or red when we're working with the laser cutter. So if you have black, we use black to etch, which means to mark on the surface but not cut all the way through, and red means to cut all the way through. So let's say we want this to cut all the way through. I will select the red. And then last thing to do is that we have the stroke weight, which you also think of as the line thickness. And for this to register properly with the laser cutter, this should always be set to 0.001 point. And you can tab out or click out, and then that will set that. Now if you click away, you'll notice that we have a very thin red line, and that is ready for printing.